Have you heard about the Houston Safari Club Foundation? They're a nonprofit organization that provides annual scholarships to college students, hunting and fishing trips, and outdoor education programs for hundreds of students each year. And they fund conservation projects at home and abroad to protect habitat and wildlife. A community of hunters and people passionate about the outdoors. Monthly events, an annual convention, member benefits, and so much more. Whether you hunt quail in South Texas or big game around the world, this is the place for you. Become a member today. Go to WeHuntWeGive.org to learn more. WeHuntWeGive.org.
Tradition, conservation, family, the outdoors. It matters to you. It matters to us. This is Hunting Matters. Presented by Houston Safari Club Foundation. Here's Joe Betar.
Good morning. Welcome back this week to Hunting Matters on KPRC 950. I'm your host, Joe Betar.
I am Ramon Robles.
And we are back at it again this Saturday. How you doing, Ramon?
A little inside baseball here. We had some technical difficulties before we went live here, so I'm kind of sweating. That's why I'm sweating. Yeah, it's a flop sweat.
It was fun to watch you sweat.
I appreciate it. Well, it's nice because I'm the technical guy, so all Joe was doing was sipping his coffee, eating his donut, and was yelling at me like, wow, Ramon, that looks hard.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, Joe.
Push that other button, dude.
Yeah. How hard can it be? It's either red or blue.
Oh, man.
Well, we're here. Man. We're professionals.
Well, we got to get done. We got to get past all our talking today because we got some great guests on and got some. I got to go mow the yard later.
Okay.
So, just kidding.
We got to get the show out of the way to take care of chores.
I got a honey-do list a mile long.
Yeah,
today,
you do.
You wouldn't believe it, but no, man, it's been a good week. Weather's been beautiful, and couldn't ask for more. So
I'm going to turn on the old Robles charm as I do every week. Yeah. As you know, I'm a deputy game warden.
That's right. Yeah.
This week, I'm going to try and finagle a all expenses paid trip to Alaska.
Alaska.
Yeah, that's going to be my goal.
Can I be your cabana boy?
My plus one. We'll see.
I'll be your cabana boy.
Okay.
I'll be your yurt.
Yeah, the Alaska cabana boy. How's that?
Also, Joe Betar, also known as Yurt Boy. No, man, we got a great show today. Yep. So let's talk a little bit about our guests. We have two guests today calling us today from Alaska. Nelli Williams. Nelli is the Alaska director for Trout Unlimited. She's worked for the past 12 years on a little project we're going to get into called Pebble Mine in the Bristol Bay region. She lives in Anchorage. She spends most of her time when she's not working, which probably not a lot of that, checking out the rivers, the beautiful rivers and public lands with her husband and two young children. I was in Alaska about a year ago and did not want to come home. Mm-hmm. So I definitely envy them. And then Tia Shoemaker. Tia grew up in a remote hunting camp in the bush in Alaska. She is a registered Alaskan hunting guide, a fishing guide, and a licensed pilot. And when she's not hunting and fishing, she's usually writing something about the outdoors, about hunting and fishing and the importance of maintaining wild places. There's some other things about Tia I won't divulge here, but I got some questions later. She's got a pretty interesting background, and my understanding she's been doing this since she was about 14 years old.
How long do you think it'll take before she reveals that she's a pilot?
I don't know.
Because pilots like to talk about being pilots.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see. All right, so let's get started. Nelli and Tia, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
We appreciate it. Before we get started, I just want to let our listening audience know you guys have a lot of affiliations, and Nelli is like I said before, the Alaska director with Trout Unlimited. You can learn about them at tu.org. You can learn about Tia and what she does for a living at grizzlyskinsofalaska.com. And then, of course, we're going to be talking about Pebble Mine and Bristol Bay, and you can learn all about that at savebristolbay.org, and we'll talk about those websites again later. So, Nelli, let's go ahead and start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself growing up in Alaska and kind of what you do on a daily basis for a living.
20 years, and I'm raising two Alaskans, and it's an incredible state. As it sounds like, Joe, so many places to play and explore, and literally right out the back door is rivers, wildlife, fish, whatever you like to do, it's there. And I have the honor of working for Trout Unlimited here in Alaska, and have for over a decade, almost a decade and a half now. And we work every day to take care of the places that people love to fish in Alaska, whether you're a resident or a visitor, and just make sure that future generations and current generations have the good fishing that Alaska is so well known for.
So, if you wouldn't mind, explain to our listeners exactly what is Trout Unlimited. What does that organization do?
Yeah. We're a nationwide network of anglers who care about and work to protect, whether through working in D.C. or at the state legislature or with local organizations and communities to protect habitat, fix rivers that maybe are in need of some help, and then we work with kids and youth and young people to help bring and adults to bring new anglers into the fishing world.
I'm glad you clarified that, because Ramon was asking me before we got on the air if Trout Unlimited had anything to do with management of catfish. So I'm glad you clarified that for him. So.
I'm embarrassed.
Yep. Tia, tell us a little bit about yourself. We're gonna learn a little bit more about you as well.
Well, the first thing you need to know is I'm a pilot. No, I'm just kidding.
There you go, Ramon. She got right into it.
I think that you're not really allowed to call yourself a pilot unless you have like 10,000 hours in Alaska. So I'll just say that I have my license and I fly. But
nice.
The real bush pilots are like my brother, who's got tons of time. Well, I grew up in the state. My brother and I grew up on a little homestead within a 1 million acre wilderness area refuge. And my folks were really fortunate at the time to be in the right spot and right time. And they got a place that had been homesteaded way back when Alaska had the Homesteading Act. And it's the last human in holding in the refuge, in the Bisharoff National Wildlife Refuge. And so we're bordered by we're bordered by a lot of wilderness. There's Katmai National Park to the north of us. There's Alaska Peninsula Wildlife Refuge below us. So to say we're kind of in the middle of nowhere is a bit of a understatement. We started a hunting and fishing business out there, and I've been doing that since I was a baby. When I was about 10 or 12, we'd spend all winters out there, and so my parents homeschooled us. The only time we saw people was when we had clients come in the summer and fall. So about 10 or 12, my parents decided my brother and I were getting a little bit bushy. You know the type. Yep. So they decided to take us north to this tiny little one-room schoolhouse in Circle Hot Springs. It's right on the border of the Arctic Circle, right near the Yukon River. And so we went to school for like 3 months out of the year in this one-room schoolhouse to get socialized. And then we go back down every year to continue guiding. So
that sounds like an awesome existence. All right, folks, we're going to take
a great.
Yeah, it's a great existence. I count me in. We're going to take a quick break here on Hunting Matters on KPRC 950. Stick with us. We've got a lot of interesting stuff to talk about.
It's the Houston Safari Club Foundation Worldwide Hunting Expo and Convention at the George R. Brown Convention Center, February 4th through the 6th, 2022. Hunting and fishing outfitters from around the world. Book the trip of a lifetime. Gear, firearms, optics, taxidermy, artwork, and more. Tickets are only $10 at the door. Children 12 and under and active military with ID get in free. Banquets, live entertainment, raffles, auctions, and proceeds support youth outdoor education, scholarships, conservation, and hunters' rights. Sponsored by Forlow, Capital Farm Credit, and Wildlife Partners. Go to WeHuntWeGive.org to learn more.
Welcome back to Hunting Matters on KPRC 950. I'm your host, Joe Vitar.
I am Ramon Robles.
And we are talking today to Nelli Williams. Nelli is the Alaska Director for Trout Unlimited. You can learn about them at tu.org. And Tia Shoemaker, who's an Alaskan hunting guide, and as she told you, put it in your face, Ramon, is also a pilot. She works with their family business at grizzlyskinsofalaska.com, and we're going to be talking about kind of what they do and what their life is like in Alaska, as well as something that's near and dear to their heart, Bristol Bay, and the issues with the Pebble Mine over there. So before we went to the break, Tia, we were talking about the fact your parents thought you guys were getting a little quote-unquote pushy. So I'd like to hear more about that. They reacclimated you guys to society, or what happened?
Well, as much as you can get with a one-room schoolhouse and 9 kids, yeah, we got socialized. And then the rest of the year, we were back down guiding on the peninsula. And so, I mean, I really grew up in it. I say I was age 14 when I started doing it. That's maybe the age I started taking it serious. But I was literally going out in the field when I was, 10 years old, helping learn to guide and do all the hunts that way. And then same thing with the fishing. So
you were literally guiding clients at 14?
Fishing, yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
I was still just a lowly packer, like a guide in training at 14. You're not allowed to guide until you're 18 in the state of Alaska.
Oh, okay. Okay. Do you have a preference for hunting versus fishing? If somebody said you can do only one tomorrow, what would that be?
Ooh, I don't follow rules well, so I'm still doing both.
Fair. When I was a kid growing up in Louisiana, we had a spot on the bayou where I lived. We would actually take our guns and hunt and stash our fishing rods in the bush, and on the way back we'd stop and fish. So we got to do both.
Yes.
So
that's great.
Nothing to the level that you guys have in Alaska, but we still got to do both in the same day. And
well, that's why August is so good. The cast and blast. You can fish for silvers and then ptarmigan hunt right after.
Cast and blast. I've never heard that. That's fascinating. What a great term. I'm sorry, Joe. I'm a novice. Yeah, that's true. I'm the novice of the show, ladies. Just FYI, I am very ignorant when it comes to hunting and fishing, and this is the perfect thing for me because I'm 43 years old and I have a lot of questions about hunting and fishing. That's why I co-host the show, because I'm learning a lot and I'm asking a lot of stupid questions.
Love it.
Thing, right?
Love it.
Yep. So Tia, do you have a degree? And I think this is not even a real thing, because if it was, I'm going back to college. Do you have a degree in outdoor therapeutic recreation?
I do.
Come on.
What is that?
Well, I actually made it up. It's an interdisciplinary degree that I created. So it was kind of a minor in psychology, which you almost need to major in to be a hunting guide, and then there was a lot of natural resource management that I threw in there, and a couple, just different kind of therapy classes, stuff that I was interested in the environment. I wanted to kind of do a biology thing, but I wanted to be heavy in psychology and therapy. I wanted to work with kids in the outdoors, and I did that for 10 years, ran a program out of Talkeetna for kids that we got them outside and kind of introduced them to the world of hiking and map reading and wilderness stuff.
Ramon, we're going to go back to school.
Yeah, I feel I got a degree in communications. I can't even get the show running some days.
I was going to ask you, you sure you graduated after you pushing the buttons over there? Nelli, okay, all kidding aside, we're here to talk about a serious subject, something that our organization, Houston Safari Club Foundation, has been involved with compared to what you guys are doing on a very peripheral basis as far as getting the word out, communicating, writing letters, and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of people in Houston who've never been to Alaska, or in our listening audience that have never been to Alaska, and they have no clue where Bristol Bay is or what the Pebble Mine is. So let's talk about, first of all, where exactly is Bristol Bay if I'm looking at the Alaskan map?
Yeah. So Bristol Bay is about 250 miles southwest of Anchorage. So if you see the big Aleutian chain going out into the Pacific Ocean on the Alaska map, Bristol Bay is that little body of water that's just north of the Aleutian chain.
Okay.
And that is home to the world's largest run of wild sockeye salmon.
How many miles south of where?
250 miles south of Anchorage.
I'm looking at Anchorage. Anchorage is so far south, and then you go another 250. Alaska's big. Go ahead. I'm sorry. That's crazy.
It is. It's quite a bit bigger than Texas.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, but it's not. No, it's not as cool though. It's not as Texas
I don't
as
know.
Texas.
If I had to live in another state, Alaska
would be a close second. Yeah,
My
absolutely.
goodness. I'm sorry. I interrupted you with my ignorance.
So you made a key point there, though. It's the largest sockeye salmon fishery run area in the world.
Yeah. About half the world's sockeye salmon comes from Bristol Bay. So if you order sockeye salmon at a restaurant or buy it at the grocery store, there's a good chance it came from the Bristol Bay area.
Okay. And to delineate the two, because sometimes you can use the same words in the same sentence as you guys do all the time, but people, when you say Bristol Bay, Pebble Mine, I'd like to delineate it for our listening audience. So we got Bristol Bay, one of the most incredible places in the world, producing one of the biggest sockeye salmon fish runs in the world. What is Pebble Mine?
Yeah. So the Pebble Mine is a proposed gold and copper mine that a Canadian company has been pushing to build in the headwaters of Bristol Bay. So basically where the two big rivers in the area flow from, the land where the two big rivers in the area flow from, underneath those rivers is this gigantic deposit of gold and copper. And for the past more than 20 years, they've been wanting to build the mine, but there's a lot of problems with it because of where it's located. Clearly, a massive mine that size in the headwaters of sockeye salmon habitat is problematic, and there's decades of science that show that. And then the size of it is many times larger than all the other hard rock mines in Alaska put together. And then the type of the mine it is problematic. A lot of the rock that is dug up that would be dug up from the pebble deposit would be sulfur. And when you expose sulfur rock to air and water, it's got a very high likelihood of producing acid mine drainage. So there's a whole bunch of things that are problematic with Pebble Mine.
And the one thing I learned, we were out on Afognak Island for about 7 days, and there's a couple who's been out there, living there forever, live there by themselves. They bought an old salmon cannery and made this place their own, and they spent, and still continue to do so, spent years and years collecting ocean trash. Plastic bottles, cans, tennis shoes, nets, this sort of thing. And I think Nat Geo actually went out and did a feature on them several years ago. And the thing that they imparted upon me, and the thing I saw from our float plane pilot and other people, officials we met all over Alaska, was there are so many. Alaska is so rich in resources, from timber to minerals to oil and all these things that. As an outsider, not an Alaskan, it almost seems to me like the whole state, because of its wealth and beauty and resources, is under attack by so many different private interests and so many industries and so many countries. And when you see these big boats carrying these big nets and scooping up these fish and chopping down these forests and stuff, it's hard for me. I'm an outsider. I can't imagine living there and being a native. It's hard to comprehend. It's hard to tolerate. Would you guys agree?
It is a challenge. I mean, I'd love to hear from Tia on this, but Alaska has a lot of big decisions in front of it. Are we going to invest and safeguard the natural resources that are renewable and have made our state run for a long time and could continue to make our state run and feed our lifestyle and keep visitors coming back? Or are we, going to turn more to those projects that are maybe non-renewable and maybe don't, feed that renewable resource base we all depend on? I mean,
I read and talk to people. I hear both sides of the argument. So, Tia, I definitely want to get your take on this. But we're going to take a quick break here on Hunting Matters on KPRC 950, and we'll be right back on the other side.
People living their lives for you on TV. They say they're better than you, and you agree. He says, hold my calls.
You don't know.
Yeah,
You're smirking over there. You don't
know why you played.
You don't know why I played. You don't know. You think Nelly and Tia would know why I played, Jewel?
They probably don't know you have a crush on her.
Alaskan.
Yeah, that's right. She's the only Alaskan I know, which takes me to our first question. By the way, Nelli Williams and Tia Shoemaker are our guests this week. Who is the biggest celebrity to come out of Alaska?
Whew, that's a tough one. Tia, I think you're more hip on pop culture than I am in celebrity.
I'm gonna go with Portugal the Man.
Oh, I had no idea. Is that true?
Yeah, they're from Wasilla.
Wow. Okay, I had no idea.
Good call.
That was out of left field. I need a second.
Okay, take a deep breath, Ramon. Yeah, collect yourself. All right, folks, today on Hunting Matters, like Ramon said, we're talking to Nelli Williams, the Alaska director for Trout Unlimited, and Tia Shoemaker, the Alaskan hunting guide and pilot extraordinaire,
yep.
and also the originator of the Outdoor Therapeutic Recreation degree. So if you missed the second segment, you need to go back and listen to that.
Do they really not know what a PlayStation is? During the break, I told them I was really good at PlayStation and asked if that would help in my survival outdoors, and they said, I don't know what a PlayStation is.
I've heard of it, but definitely have no idea what you do.
That is fascinating. I could learn a lot from you. I need to unplug. That is my problem.
That's pretty cool when you hear somebody say that.
Yeah, that is really cool.
I mean, when we were out, last time we were in Alaska, we were out 7 days. I think we had generator for an hour or two a day, but basically unplugged. And we got stuck there. The first storm or the first big fog of the season came in, so we were there an extra 2 days that we didn't want to be, but we were there in a Airbnb, we weren't out hunting, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. And so we finally got back in and had to fly through Chicago and spent the night in the Chicago airport. And after being out in the middle of nowhere for 7 days, the noise and the crowd and the people was so, I mean, you could feel your skin vibrate. Yeah. So I'm all about being locked out somewhere. And
y'all are living the life.
Absolutely.
Just FYI, y'all are living the life.
We are very lucky. Very lucky.
So before we went in the break, we started talking about Pebble Mine and Bristol Bay. And Tia, as an Alaska native, I'd like to get your take on this whole situation.
So I would say that my parents, I kind of start with them. They moved up from the lower 48 when they were in their 20s, and they moved to Bush, Alaska for a reason. And I guess kind of backing up here, I just want to say I am pro responsible resource development. My parents started off in a gold mine. I, grew up part-time in that tiny little town, Circle Hot Springs, surrounded by gold miners. And we're talking small-time gold mines. We're talking basically responsible resource extraction. And so I don't have a problem with that. As you guys deduced in the beginning, I fly an airplane. That causes there's a need for resources, distraction. To be able to get resources to be able to fly. So, I think that's not the problem here. My parents, when they moved out to wilderness area, Bush, Alaska, they didn't want to see what they had moved away from. They didn't want to see Alaska become what the lower 48 was and has become more so in the last 50 years. And I very strongly feel the same way, that kind of as you pointed out, we have a lot of folks from the lower 48, but also from other countries, the Pebble Mine being a prime example of that, wanting to come in and extract our resources. And so, I don't want to see roads everywhere. I don't want to see strip malls. I love being in the wilderness. I love having hunting and fishing opportunities at my back door and my front door and all around. And so I think that, we run this balance of trying to figure out how do we go ahead and use our oil and our timber and mine responsibly, but at the same time care for our number one renewable resource, which is our salmon, our wildlife, and our wild places. And really easy. The big answer for me there is that we find ways of doing it, but Pebble Mine's not one of them.
Yeah, there's definitely a fine line to walk between management of resources responsibly and development. I mean, you listen. You want your citizens to be employed. You want you want people to have an opportunity to make a living, but you don't want to do so at the cost of everything around you, right?
Exactly. Absolutely. And I think, when it comes to salmon in particular, like Alaska has the chance, the opportunity to get the wild salmon story right. And to do that, we have to learn from the lessons that we've made in other parts of the we have to learn from our lessons from the lower 48, where it hasn't gone so well for salmon, and Trout Unlimited and many states spend millions and millions and millions of dollars trying to fix habitat and get salmon back. And here we're in a really good spot in that we still have pretty great salmon runs, very great salmon runs, and we just need to look forward in a way that is responsible and make sure we keep those salmon runs around.
I agree. So, Nelli, one of the things that confused me when I first started hearing about this issue, I hate the name Pebble Mine because, you can tell our audience about why it's called Pebble Mine, but when I hear it, for the uninformed or the new person to the topic, Ramon, you hear it and you go, oh, they're mining pebbles.
Yeah. No, they're not.
Right.
Okay. So can you talk a little bit about why is it called that? Why is it called Pebble Mine?
It's a great question, and I don't think anybody knows the exact answer for this, but when mining claims are staked, and Pebble's claim was staked way back several decades ago, the folks who are out there exploring and staking get to pick names, and they picked Pebbles. So it's a very deceiving name, but they're not mining pebbles. It would be gold and copper in a massive open pit, mile wide, mile deep, and many dams and a road that's over 100 miles long, tons of infrastructure to support the Pebble Mine development in a place, as Tia has been describing, that right now is pristine.
Right.
Yeah, endlessly winding rivers. And we don't actually, it'd be a great thing to look into, is figure out who exactly came up with the name of the deposit.
And I know it's just, on the grand scheme of things of what's going on, I know it's a small trivial thing. It just always bugged me that it's called Pebble Mine, because Pebble Mine makes it sound like it's a tourist attraction and it's cute.
Coming up,
And it totally, I'm sorry, I'm getting on the soapbox here, but it totally demeans the massive destruction that could be caused in this situation. So this is kind of even though I don't live there, it's an issue near and dear to my heart. It kind of bothers me. So, all right. So there's been a lot of start and stop on this project. The Corps of Engineers had some reports and results, and you think it's going to happen, and you think, okay, good, now they're going to shut it down. So, Nelli, tell us a little bit about where are we right now with this mine?
Yeah, we're in a good spot, but there's more work to do. So last November, just the day before Thanksgiving, the Pebble was denied a massive permit they need to move forward with their mine. So that was a really important milestone in this effort to protect Bristol Bay. A permit was not given because it failed to meet important standards for clean water, and then it was contrary to public interest, which means, it wasn't in the best interest of people. So that is a really important and strong place to be. And, hunters and anglers played a really big role in that. And, a shout out to Houston Safari Club for weighing in time and time again on that. But we're not done. Ultimately, those mining claims are still there. There's still clearly a lot of gold and copper in the ground. The Pebble Mine proponents have appealed that permit decision, so they're saying, actually, no, we should be given that permit. And I anticipate that, if that decision holds, they will go to court, and TU stands ready to monitor and are watching that closely. But so we're in a great spot, but we certainly have work to do.
Yeah, the unknown of what could happen next is a little not scary, but you're like a little unsettling. And but to your earlier point, I think it's a victory at this point that people that hunt and fish and live in that land and organizations like Trout Unlimited and the citizens and the hunters and fishers of all over the world have what they have done to stand up and it shows the power of numbers of people that love the outdoors and kind of where we are now, whether it's an organization or individuals, it definitely shows the power. So, folks, if you want to learn about this issue, go to savebristolbay.org. We're going to talk a little bit more about it on the other side. Hunting Matters on KPRC 950.
Don't do that. This is so awkward.
You don't like my dance moves?
No, not those.
I just threw it out at you.
I thought you were going to hurt yourself, old man.
Playing a little Nelly for our guest Nelly?
She probably doesn't get that.
Oh, she doesn't know what a PlayStation is. She's not going to get that.
So we have standard 3 questions, Joe. Do you don't mind if I jump in here real quick and ask them the 3 questions?
Before you do that, I want to tell our guest who's on the tell our listeners, should I say, who's on the phone. Nelli Williams, with the Alaska director with Trout Unlimited. Tia Shoemaker, who's an Alaskan hunting guide and native Alaskan with Grizzly Skins of Alaska. Go ahead.
Well, time's tight. I'll ask one question to each. We'll start with Nelli. Nelli, what is the biggest animal you think you could take down with your bare hands?
Oh, my goodness.
You had to. It was you or the animal, and you had to take one down with your bare hands.
If I were defending my kids, it'd probably be a pretty big animal.
Well, sure, Mama Bear. I get that. But it's just you. I don't want to get too macabre, but it's just you, and you have to take an animal down.
I'd go for a large rabbit.
Yeah, see, absolutely. Yeah. All right, Tia, you want that question, or you want another one?
I'll take that one.
Okay, what's the biggest animal you think you could take down with your bare hands?
Mike Tyson, easy.
Nice.
First knockout.
Have you seen Mike wandering across the tundra up there lately?
That's funny.
That's why you go with Tia in the woods.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I've seen the pictures. Yeah, I definitely would put her on the front line. So to wrap up what we were talking about in the last segment, because we like to kind of ask these funny questions at the end to learn a little bit more about our guest. Nelli, what's next with Pebble Mine to kind of wrap up that topic?
Yeah. So we're in a good spot, but if we don't want to deal with the Pebble Mine again in 5 years or 10 years or 15 years, there's still more work to do. And there's three things that we're looking at. One is defending that important permit denial that I talked about earlier. The second is that there is a important tool in the Clean Water Act that can be used to restrict mine waste disposal in really important waters for recreation or water supply. So we really want that tool to be used. And then the third thing is that we're going to be working toward congressional legislation that would provide durable, long-term, community-supported protections for Bristol Bay. And, that's when I rest a little easier, when we have those really important layers to protect the fishery and the businesses and the communities that rely on the Bristol Bay rivers.
Perfect, folks. If you're gonna learn anything today, go to Save Bristol Bay. That's SaveBristolBay.org. SaveBristolBay.org. Look into this subject, because trust me, it may be happening in Alaska, but it can be setting a precedent for things that are happening in other parts of the world. So go learn about it. Speak up about it. If you love to hunt, fish, you love the outdoors, speak up about it. All right. So, Tia, I've looked at the website. Everything you hunt is on the top of my bucket list. I've hunted some of those animals and things like that. But can you talk a little bit about the phenomenal bear population there in Alaska and its reliance on the fish and the salmon and all these things we're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. Just want to throw in a quick first disclaimer that when lower 48 people say Native Alaskan,
okay.
I am born and raised in Alaska, but to be fair to our indigenous population,
yes.
I would just say I'm not exactly Native. The
point
bear, the wildlife population is incredible on the Alaskan Peninsula. You can fish for all 5 species of salmon. You can fish for Dolly Varden, rainbow trout, grayling, and then the bear and moose population is absolutely phenomenal. It's Fish and Game estimates the bear population to be two bears per square mile on the Alaskan Peninsula, which is incredible. vast number, and they're all concentrated around Bristol Bay, of course, because of the rich feed. That's why they get to be the largest in the world, also, that as well as Kodiak. So skull size, Boone and Crockett wise, they are the largest bears in the world because of that feed. And so that's, of course, we're very reliant on the salmon population to stay healthy and the entire intact ecosystem to be healthy. And the point that I like to make with folks is just that, look at Africa. If you've been hunting in Africa, you know that there are different countries and areas where lion hunting is not really a thing anymore. Elephant hunting is really hard, or there's giraffe hunting is getting tougher. It's stuff that a big part of that is that the human population has boomed, and so has the infrastructure, and so has their resource extraction, and so you're seeing smaller and smaller wildlife habitat. And the Alaskan Peninsula, we're not having conversations about, gosh, how do we save bear hunting? How do we save moose hunting? It's like, wow, yeah, you can just come to Alaska and come shoot a bear, because you can come hunting, all because we have such good salmon populations, because we have such incredible amount of wilderness area still left for these animals to grow large and roam free. And so I think that there's really something to be said for protecting rather than trying to save an opportunity. We have something here that's worth not getting to the point where a lot of countries in Africa have got to with their hunting abilities.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you make a very good point there. I mean, there's a true distinction between trying to save these things and protect them and facilitate their habitats, like we're talking about, with the Bristol Bay thing and Pebble Mine. I mean, you want to protect that food chain, because without the salmon, guess what? The bear are not going to grow, and they're not going to be there. They're not going to be on that feed like they typically are. So it's
same goes for as those salmon are dying off, they're leaching all that oxygen or nitrogen back into the soil, and that nitrogen is then growing really healthy willows. So then the ungulates of the area have something to eat, and so you have these big moose walking around, or all these caribou. So yeah, it can't be stressed enough of how everyone from the very bottom animals up to the apex predators, everybody relies on the salmon, and all in Bristol Bay.
It's almost like there's a balance to nature, that Mother Nature knows what she's doing.
Weird.
Yeah.
Funny how that thing works.
Yep.
So, Nelli,
yes.
If you had to spend a day fishing, I mean, do you have a preference? Are you more of a fly fisherman? Do you more spin cast? I mean, what's kind of your ideal day of fishing?
I grew up in Wisconsin, so if I were back home in Wisconsin, it'd be a cane pole and a worm and bluegill fishing.
Love it.
So fun. But I do a lot of fly fishing up here, and any Saturday, you usually find us on the river outside of Anchorage and in the boat with the kids and fishing. We do a lot of trout fishing, but enthusiastic grayling are also fun.
So, T, I know
both of my
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Both of my kids have been in the boat since they've been like 6 days old.
Wow.
So they love it too, which I'm very grateful for. So fishing with them is probably the most fun for me.
So, Tia, you've been doing this for quite a while now. Can you, we listen, we see all the shows on TV and the reality shows and things like that. Can you briefly tell us what your most dangerous encounter has been when you've been out on one of these trips with animals?
Probably with hunters with bad muzzle control.
There you go. Yeah,
it's a human.
I'll tell you, it's not my most dangerous, but kind of the funniest. My dad loves to tell people is on the first bear hunt I was guiding, we bumped a bear really close range, not the one we were stalking, and it was small and like that teenage years, kind of aggressive, and it charged us. But having grown up around them, I can tell when it's a bluff charge or a real charge. And as the bear is running at us, the client's next to me, and he goes to put a round in and gets his gun up, and I said, just relax, he's only charging. And, of course, I meant to say just bluff charging, but I said he's just charging. The client later was like, yeah, I don't know why that makes you relax, but it doesn't make me relax.
Wow, what a story. That's amazing. That you can tell the difference. That's just, I'm fascinated with that.
Yeah, and you don't want to be between a mama bear and her,
yeah,
or
of
the
course.
sow and the cubs either. So, well, guys, we appreciate you being on the show so much. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but we got to have you back to talk about this. We want to talk a little bit more about some of the adventures that you guys have had. Folks, if you want to know about this issue with Bristol Bay and Pebble Mine, go to savebristolbay.org. Learn about Trout Unlimited at tu.org. And if you want to book a fantastic hunting or fishing trip or just an adventure trip in Alaska, go see Tia Shoemaker and the folks at Alaska. She's an Alaskan hunting guide at grizzlyskinsofalaska.com. Nelli and Tia, thanks so much for being here. Folks, we'll see you next week on Hunting Matters on KPRC 950.